The specifics of the Washington bureaucracy, as opposed to the White House, are pretty well covered in your text, and I don't want to waste our time going over them again. But I would like to add something to the discussion in the text. Good though it is, it's a little bit incomplete. The question is, how does the White House and the White House staff and the office, executive office of the president, how do they keep it all together? Very often, they don't. And that's fact, they don't. I would argue that under President Trump, they're having a very hard time keeping it all together. Under President Obama, we had some pretty embarrassing situations where they did not keep it all together. But if they were able to do so, if you asked the question, how do you keep it together? They would say, the response would be, by coordination. Working in the bureaucracy in Washington, as I did for the better part of 30 years, you spend an awful lot of time doing what is called coordination. Now, there are many variations on this theme, but let me try to take you through. Bureaucrats in Washington are known as, the guys at the top, they are principals. And then beneath them, there's a series known as deputies. Then beneath them, there's a bunch of other people, of which I was one, called working level. Okay? So principals will meet, deputies will meet, and working level will meet. The trouble is, the principals and the deputies are so busy and so compelled to move in so many other directions that they are totally dependent upon the working level. Analyst, bureaucrat, whatever it is. So what happens, let's say there's a problem of should President Trump accept a telephone call from the leader of Taiwan? No, that's not a good one. How can we stop North Korea? No, that's not a good one either, because we probably can't. Let me think of a good manageable problem. Good, easy, manageable problem. How can we defeat ISIS? There's a good manageable problem, right? I did that deliberately. That shows you what we're dealing with here. The principals would meet, and they would talk about objectives and goals. They would probably meet with their deputies. Then the deputies would meet, and they would say, well, my boss, my principal feels that, we feel. Principals and deputies represent usually cabinet posts, secretaries. Deputies are somewhat further down. So, the HUD position is, the DOD position is, the State Department position is. The principals meet, the deputies meet, and they talk about what their principals have in mind, and then people like me or sort of sit and listen to all of this, and out of it there emerge certain questions that have to be answered. There is certain information that has to be put together. And so they will constitute a working group. So we will have the working group on defeating ISIS. We'll have the working group on repealing or constituting medical care. You get the idea. Working level. And incidentally, the world does not know the number of working groups, and the very existence of many working groups is highly, highly classified. For example, we don't want the Chinese to know that we have a working group going on how we should treat defectors from China. to give you an innocuous example. But I want you to get the idea that all of the things that happen at the working level are done by people like you and people like me. Just ordinary people. And something else you'll find is that principals and deputies are pretty ordinary people too. They may be highly intelligent, they may be highly effective and do all of these things. But they are basically just people. And this whole process, from working group meeting to deputies meeting to principals meeting to final decision, is what we call the process of coordination. Now, there's lots more you can say about this whole thing, but I will leave the details of this to the book, to your reading of the text. Let me just say that the thing I want you to take from this is the notion of the importance of coordination. Now, some of the problems with coordination is so often the principal can't make it to the meeting, just can't. So the deputy will come. Well, the deputy can't. So someone from the working group level takes the meeting. It's called taking the meeting. You sit in. And you'll sit there and you'll be talking like the Secretary of State, when in fact you aren't the Secretary of State. You are a Foreign Service officer at the working level. And that is both good and bad, because it means that a necessary granularity, level of detail, gets into the policy process, but it also slows the whole process down. Now that's really pretty much what I wanted to say about how the bureaucracy operates. Coordination, that's a key, and I invite you to ponder it and think about it. Thanks.